Hi, Tam.
The night of the attack, Karla watched as Tammy grew woozy from the halcyon-laced after-dinner drinks. Karla knew that combination, plus the anesthetic halothane on a full stomach, were risky. When Tammy passed out, Karla held a halothane-soaked cloth over her sister's mouth during the assault. Tammy choked on vomit and stopped breathing. She couldn't be revived. Two coroners who reviewed the case, one officially and one for the Fifth Estate, believe there was enough halothane on the cloth to have caused this burn on Tammy's face.
Those burns are possibly chemical in nature and antemortem.
The only chemical that was near her was the halothane. It was not placed on her face directly. It was held, as I said, like this far away.
Homolka is lying to police. A videotape of the assault recovered later clearly shows Homolka holding the soaked cloth either very close to or directly on Tammy's face. The coroner's report done when Tammy's body was exhumed makes that lie especially significant. The report suggests, among other things, that she may have been smothered during the application of halothane to her face. A condition of Homolka's deal is that she'd not stop the life of any of the girls. Why didn't you have those facts available for the sentencing?
Because nothing turned on it. There was nothing material that was going to change what happened with Homolka as the result of the exhumation of Tammy's body.
But I thought her deal stipulated that if she stopped the breath of any of the girls, the deal was off.
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying it looks like she stopped the breath of her sister.
Contributed to her death.
Not contributing. The report says that Tammy Homolka died as a result of the aspiration of stomach contents while unconscious due to the application of halcyon and halothane. Who applied the halothane to Tammy Homolka's face?
Karla Homolka.
His other hypothesis is that she could have died from asphyxia due to smothering during the application of some fluid to the face. Who applied the halothane to Tammy Homolka's face?
Karla Homolka.
What he's suggesting is that Karla Homolka did stop the breath of her sister.
I don't think that's what he's saying.
6 weeks after Tammy's death, Karla wrote this letter to a friend.
Dear Deb, fuck my parents. First they took away half the wedding money, then they kicked us out. My father doesn't even want us to have a wedding anymore. Screw that. We're having a good time. If my father wants to sit at home and be miserable, he's welcome to. He's only worked a day since Tammy died. He's wallowing in his own misery and fucking me.
It's just appalling. It appears to me to be absolutely callous and totally unconcerned about the fact that her sister had died significantly through her own actions only a couple of months earlier. She doesn't care that her father is grieving about the loss of his daughter. This is really quite a shocking thing.
And there's no remorse in there about Tammy. I mean, it's just...
There's no remorse about Tammy in this letter whatsoever.
Do you wish you'd seen that before?
Sure I do.
But does it make you more concerned about what might have been going on inside the head of that young woman?
It may have made it a little easier for her to be a perfect follower for this particular sadist because she's already along that direction herself.
Dear Christy, I'm cooperating with the police fully. They're being very nice to me and treating me like the victim I am.
God, it feels weird to be back in here.
The victim was matter-of-fact when she toured police through her Bayview Avenue home where two teenagers were murdered. She had chosen to dress as a schoolgirl. Homolka's response to being back in one of the rooms where Leslie Mahaffey was attacked was to ask police about her furniture.
Can you answer a question for me? Was any of the furniture damaged as a result of the investigation?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, wait, so I'm asking for.
And upstairs in the bathroom where they cleansed Kristen French's body of evidence, Homolka inquired after her perfume samples.
But I don't have any of that stuff.
So where are all those articles now?
Where Paul's lawyer took them.
You're saying Paul's lawyer took a number of articles from you?
Well, from what I understand, his lawyer took basically everything. This is where we carried Leslie down the stairs.
And in the basement where Leslie Mahaffey was dismembered, she had yet another inquiry on behalf of her other sister, Lori.
Can I ask you a question?
I'm afraid I can't answer
Can I
you
have
any
that
questions.
book? My sister wants it. Or does that have to stay here?
That has to stay for now,
Okay.
but we can make those arrangements.
Okay, thank you. And my Christmas tree.
In July 1993, Karla began serving her sentence at P4W in a segregated cell surrounded by her favorite cartoon characters. 3 months into it, Homolka claimed she remembered another assault. She wrote to her lawyer about a victim we'll call Jane Doe.
Dear George, hi, I'm having a major problem. I've remembered something else. Paul raped Jane Doe, a friend of mine. What I'm really afraid of is that I was more involved than I can remember. I have to tell them, but what if they nail me for this too? Can you do something to make sure they don't? Thanks, George. Karla.
Stephen Williams spent 3.5 years reviewing the evidence in this case. He says Homolka had good reason to be worried.
So just before they get married, and before Leslie Mahaffey was kidnapped, 2 weeks before, she did exactly to Jane Doe what she did to her sister, rendered her unconscious with a mixture of halothane and halcyon, and she calls her fiancé on his car phone and says, "Come home, dear, I have a surprise for you."
Stream close up.
The surprise was the girl in this video shot by Homolka hours before the assault. It was the first of 2 assaults and the one that was Homolka's idea. But she only told police about the second assault, which happened months later and which Bernardo initiated. 16 months after Homolka's deal, Bernardo's original counsel finally turned over important evidence against his client. Videotapes documenting the sexual assaults of Tammy Homolka, Leslie Mahaffey, and Kristen French. As evidence against Bernardo, they were as good as a smoking gun, but they also exposed something sinister about Karla Homolka. In many cases, she appeared to be enjoying herself as she took her turn sexually assaulting the couple's young victims, including Jane Doe. The tapes also suggested Karla's memory lapse about Jane Doe might have been one of convenience, that she might be guilty of perjury and another sexual assault. The Crown star witness was in trouble, so another psychologist was brought in, all the way from California. Homolka had showed a remarkable facility for detail, but Dr. Chris Hatcher said she had a form of amnesia as a result of the abuse she'd suffered, and the Crown accepted that Homolka had genuinely forgotten about the Jane Doe assault in June. Even so, she'd committed the assault, and former Crown prosecutor Mary Hall thought she should be charged with, among other things, attempted murder.
She could have died. I mean, they did the same thing to Jane that they did to Tammy Homolka, and we all know that Tammy Homolka died.
It does seem, based on the evidence, that Ms. Homolka was driving that train, that she initiated the assault.
Quite frankly, her evidence was the same on everything, wasn't it? That Paul made me do it.
Senior Crown attorneys met several times to determine Homolka's fate. They decided that although they could charge her with the assault on Jane Doe, that it was in the public interest not to do so now. In this letter to Inspector Vince Bevan, the Attorney General's office explains their decision, saying that charges might suggest that Homolka's initial sentence was inadequate, and charges would also reduce Homolka's effectiveness as a witness. Everybody said you wouldn't have made the deal with Ms. Homolka if you didn't have the videotapes.
Mm-hmm.
Now it looks like she's broken the deal, and you've got the videotapes, don't you?
Yes.
And yet you went ahead and made another deal.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't needed as a witness anymore.
Yeah.
The Crown says that there's little doubt that she would feel she'd been unfairly dealt with if she'd been charged. Who cares what she thinks?
Yeah. Well, I agree with you.
What does that say about the Crown's relationship with Karla Homolka?
I don't know. I can't fill you in on that.
Well, you're smiling, but does that disturb you? I mean, you got that letter initially.
Going back to the earlier part of our conversation, did I say I agreed with the advice?
But you didn't charge her, and you could have.
No. Yeah. There is, further information that if a charge was laid, it would not be proceeded with
By the Crown.
by the Crown.